Hey YouTube, well today I'm going to be reconditioning these carburetors on the CB125t. Yeah, it's not running exactly right, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I'll start it up real quick. Alright, full throttle, right? That shouldn't take that long to rev up. You see? That's idling. And that's not making max RPM either. So, that means the carburetors need cleaning. I've already ruled out the air filter being a possible issue. It didn't have a proper air filter, but I mean, I took them off and it made no difference. I don't think it should on one of these carburetors. It's not like a stupid little moped, you know, where it matters. But yeah, so the first step is going to be to remove the carburetors. And that's best done by removing the tank, disconnecting the throttle and choke cable if you have one, disconnecting the carburetors from the inlets, and removing the airbox or removing the inlet boots, depending on what your bike. Every bike's different, but on this one, looks like I'm going to have to take the tank off, disconnect the cables, and I might be able to get her out of there without removing the airbox. We'll have to see. So yeah, let's get her done. What on earth have you done, Alex? Well, carburetors are now off, airbox is off, battery is out as a consequence of having to remove the airbox, got to remove the battery. Stupid design. Yeah, it came off fairly straightforward. Had to remove throttle cables. Always want to make sure which one is the opener and which one is the shutter, because of Ralph Nader, you have to have an opener and a shutter for CV carburetors for regulation, and you got to make sure which one's which, or else it'll be a real pain in the ass to figure out which one goes where. So make sure you, mark them, or I mean, I know because I can about what nuts are on them, so it's not too difficult. So there's that. What else? The breather. This bike it's a crankcase breather. All bikes have them, and it comes out. Some of them are at the head, but on this one's in the crank, and it did come out, and it had a little Y piece that went to each side of the airbox. But for now, I just put a piece of fuel hose on there. It'll work good. I should really put a check valve in there, but for what I'm doing to it, it don't matter. I'm not gonna put the airbox back in. I'm gonna have to make some rig for the battery, but I'm just gonna use a K&N style filters, the cone type, to make it more cafe racer-ish. But yeah, there's the old airbox pieces and such. So, and there's a tank over there. Something else you're gonna want to check if you're tuning your bike. Make sure you got good fuel flow. Yeah, just get a container underneath the petcock and turn the petcock on and make sure you got good flow. That's always important, because that can make your bike run shitty if you're not getting enough fuel. Alright, so let's clean these carburetors out. Biggest thing I'd recommend is do one at a time. Always do one at a time, because if you attempt to do both of them at once, you can screw stuff up, and you'll put, like, they're not necessarily different, but one might have like a different, different jet size, or like a different mixture spring or something. That they could be different. So always do one at a time. And also, if you screw it up and forget where something goes, you can open the other one up and be like, oh yeah, that's where it goes. Yeah, so you're gonna crack loose. Make sure they're drained out first, of course, and crack loose these 4 screws. Good to have a little parts container on hand. Gonna need flathead and Phillips head screwdriver, and I like to have a little bit of thin gauge wire here. That's very important. You can use like a piece of a wire brush if you want, but I like the wire. So we'll go ahead and pull that bowl off. Pretty dirty. You see that gunge in it? Not too good. So that can clog your jets. That's caused by old fuel. That's why that's like that. So yeah, you see more gunge down here. Don't know how good it's going to show up on camera, but there's that. So gonna make sure you get maybe a little bit WD-40 or carburetor cleaner if you have it, and just spray all that shit, clean it out. But that's not until you're done. Now what I'm going to do is clean out the jets. That's, I guess, the main. That's probably the idle. And that doesn't look like a removable jet, but we'll still ram the the wire down it, just to be sure. So we'll go ahead and remove the jets and show you how to clean them out. Alright, well the jets are out. This is the main jet. It goes in here. You can see, I'm not sure if you can tell on the camera too good, but there's a little needle in there, and as I move the slide up and down, that needle moves as well. That's how CV carburetors work. The engine chooches air through here by compression, and it lifts up this son of a bitch here, which lets fuel through. That's how they work. It's got the throttle in here, and always want to make sure those are opening together too. Sometimes they're not, but usually they do. But sometimes you have to adjust it. Every bike adjusts differently. But yeah, so that opens, which lets a different amount of air through to the other piece, and depending on how much air through, it's more, it sucks up, and it's a really stupid design. And slide carburetors are better in every way, in my opinion. So jets, the way you check if they're clogged, hold them up to the light, and if you can see light through them, then they're not clogged. This one is, the video is making it not be too good, but this one is partially clogged. You can see some light through it, but not a lot. This pilot jet, or idle jet, is completely blocked. So we're going to take the thin gauge wire and ram it through there a little bit, and just clean it up, get all the gunge out of it, and then we'll see if we can see some light through it. Alright, well, the jets are clean now. Yeah, I don't know why I bother doing this. You can't see on the camera anyway, but if you hold it up to the light, it is clean. That one as well. Also, I blew some brake cleaner, high power brake cleaner, down there, and I cleaned that out with the wire. Also, I cleaned out the bowl really good. This stuff at the bottom is just corrosion, that's okay, but make sure you get all that gunk out of there, nice and clean. It's alright if you use brake cleaner, just make sure you put gasoline or petroleum or oil or WD-40 on it afterwards to make sure it doesn't rust up, because that's not based the same as petroleum. Make sure all in the float area, all that's clean down there. Make sure the float works good. I know that by the way this bike was running, that the floats were not sticking or anything like that. But you want to just make sure fuel and flow to the carburetor is good. Make sure that opens smooth and that's not blocked up in there. What else? That's about it. Just make sure there's no gunge. Clean up all the gunge material. Anything that could, clog a jet. Make sure you got that nice and clean and out of there. Should be none of that stuff in your car. Yeah, so once you've got it all nice and clean and the jets are free, you can go ahead and put the jets back in. Make sure you screw them down real tight because you don't want them falling out. I did have a bike once that I was running alright and started running shitty, and I pulled the carburetors apart, and someone had cleaned the carbs before and not tightened the jet up good. So, and it fell out and was just sitting there, so that's definitely a bad thing to happen. Don't want that to happen. Yeah, and then, so once you got the jets back in, nice and tight, I'm going to go ahead and put your bowl back on. Tighten it up even Stevens on all four of them so the gasket sets good, not too tight, but snug. And move on to the second carburetor. And it's almost the exact same thing. You might have an accelerator pump, this bike doesn't, so it'll be the exact same thing, so I'm not going to bother filming it. So I'm going to clean out this side of it, and then I'm going to go ahead and move on to the top, which is something you have to do on gay-ass CV piece of garbage carburetors. Alright, well the other bowl, I cleaned it out. It was spotless in there, if you can believe that, so pretty much spotless. So I moved on to the top now. It's got two of these little vacuum sort of things. Once you pull it off, sometimes they're real hard to get off, but it was easy on this one. And it's got this sort of throttle cable holder thing. But you want to check that this like seal is in nice shape right here, and you want to check that the slide mechanism moves up and down smooth. If you want, you can pull it out. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but you can pull it out and put a little bit of oil around it and then stick it back in. That can often, help. But unless they're all, gummed up and horrible, you really shouldn't have to worry about these. But I'm going to go ahead and put a thin layer of oil on it and just have it back together, and then we'll reinstall it on the bike and see how she runs. Alright, well she's all back together and she's running. I had to start it with the booster box because I don't got nowhere to mount the battery, and I just have these gay little cloth filters here that are held on with zip ties. I'll fix that later and put some copper K&Ns on there, but remember how it wouldn't rev up before? Yes! That's what I'm talking about! That's some Cafe Racer revs right there. Alright, so yeah, it wasn't too hard. Just had to slam them back in there, reconnected the throttle cables, reconnected the fuel hose, put the tank back on. That's it. Oh, and I put the breather, that little breather hose on, but that's it. So now I'm going to take her for a ride, and I bet she'll be nice and fast now. So yeah, that's how you clean your carburetors out on a CB125t or pretty much any Japanese twin-cylinder CV carburetor motorcycle. Thanks for watching.